Why does everything feel so unstable right now in the world? Why do we sense that everything is unstable? What's going on energetically? Why are we sensing a disconnect with what we feel inside and what's happening outside? I'm going to be talking about this in this live stream today here on YouTube. We've got people that are going to be joining from all around the world, not by accident, but by divine connection. So you're not just listening to this because you happen to scroll through. You've been guided to connect with me, and this is a two-way conversation between you and me. We have Aaron in the chat room who is moderating. He's going to make sure that I don't have any technical challenges, that the sound is good, that we don't have any lagging. Because the information I'm going to be sharing with you today has come directly from source. I call it divine presence, divine wisdom, direct connection. The information doesn't come from research or any other outside force. It comes direct. I'm not special because I can access that. I just know how to do it. We all have direct connection to the divine if we seek and we ask. We have that connection. And in future videos, I'm going to be sharing with you how you can make the connection for yourself. But that will be in future live streams. If we are good to go with all of the technical issues and the changes that I have made on my end, I'm going to be creating many more of these live streams really regularly. But I've been working behind the scenes to make sure that the sound and the video and all of the technical side is perfected first so that we don't have challenges. So Aaron, are you there yet? I've been on for about 2 or so minutes, and I just want to make sure that we don't have any technical issues before I deliver the contents for today. It doesn't look like Aaron is there, but that's okay. We'll go ahead nonetheless. So the world is shifting. It's changing. The system, Aaron is here. How are we sounding, Aaron, before I get into the contents of this? Because you know how important this is. It'll take a minute for Aaron to get that because there is a delay in the broadcast between the words that you're hearing, a slight delay, and when YouTube grabs it and broadcasts it to you. So we'll just see how that. Aaron says it is all good, and I'm glad to hear that. Is it perfect, Aaron, or is there still reverb? He'll get back to me in a second. The system, the world, is tightening its grip. Why is the system tightening its grip? Because the system is losing control. Why is the system losing control? Because too many people, still slightly. Aaron, when I did the recording, I had the most perfect, beautiful sound. But you obviously can hear reverb. And I actually recorded it to YouTube as a private video, and it was perfect, Aaron. I wonder why. Anyway, I'm going to continue nonetheless. And we don't have many of you on anyway. So the point of sort of going live anyway is to share information. And as long as you can hear me, that's the main thing. So the system that we live in, and I'm referring to my notes, so forgive me for looking down, is tightening its grip. It's tightening its grip because it's losing control. Now, the system I talk to isn't about current geopolitical systems. I'm not talking so much about governments. I'm talking about this entire reality. this entire dimension that we call physicality, what we call Earth. Did you know that there's no point trying to save the Earth? Why would you say that, Paul? Why would you say there's no point trying to save the Earth? Of course we want to save the Earth. The Earth is our home. Is it? Or is it an illusion and something that is not what it seems? Who gets the sense when they hear that there's something not quite right? Who has had the sense since birth, since being in this reality, that something was not quite right? They don't like the violence. They don't like the systems. They don't like the structure. They don't like the religions. The reason that your soul senses that is correctly so, it's not quite right. There's something that's misaligned. Now, why is that? Let me give you a brief history lesson. There is a reality, a realness, and a dimension beyond this that is real. I call it the real Earth. Dolores Cannon called it the new Earth, but I don't call it that, although they are synonymous with each other. They mean the same thing. But for language's sake, I think it's more correct to call it the real Earth. Because the real Earth has always existed. The real Earth existed well before this Earth, this reality that we're communicating with each other in now, ever existed. Did you know, have you heard before, that this reality is not the real reality? Now, the ancient Christian Gnostics knew this. When the scrolls were found in Nag Hammadi in 1945, people began to read those scrolls and read that there was something that was created as a copy of the original. And that is what I'm talking about. This earth reality in which we are, this density, this dimension, this frequency that we're on, this earth that we call home is not actually the real one. It's a copy. Why would it be copied? Who would copy it? Why would that happen? Many of you are familiar with many teachings that talk about the fall. In fact, Christianity in the Old Testament talks about the Garden of Eden. It wasn't a literal garden in the sense of a place in this earth that they walked around. I've got lagging with my camera now, and one of my lights went off, and I knew that would occur, but one of them is on, so you should still be able to see me okay. And I'll continue nonetheless, but just bear with me with the technical issues. This garden wasn't a garden in the sense of what we would know a garden to be. It was actually a whole reality. This whole reality was connected to what is defined as the heavens above. It was a place where the Elohim existed with creation, with the Creator. It was perfection. It didn't have any distortion. It didn't have any violence. It didn't have any separation from the divine and creation itself. And then what happened? Symbolically, as we're taught, deception came in. Deception came in through the form of the snake. Now, whether that is literal or not, it doesn't matter. But the snake came in and it gave humanity, Eve representing the divine feminine, Adam representing the divine masculine, were given a choice. Do you want to remain, or do you want to have something that you are being told that you lack? Now, they were offered all wisdom, all power, and we know the story. They went with that option. They fell. Where did they fall from? The sky? No, they fell from the density. They fell from that frequency into a inorganic frequency, a copy of the original, not the original. And when the copy happened, the copy was not exactly the same as the original. And it included inserts. It included distortions. It included genetic severing of DNA. Who has heard of Zecharia Sitchin's work around the creator beings, the Elohim, that distorted and manipulated reality? That's what I'm talking about. Now, that is not really where I wanted to go with this conversation that we're having, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a background, a bit of a history lesson, so that you can at least begin to understand there is so much more than we perceive. Do we have anyone besides Aaron in the chat? Do you want to say hello and maybe let me know where you're joining from? What part of the world? I love hearing from you. And if anyone has any questions, not only am I here to answer, but Aaron is here if I miss anything. And he knows some of this information as well, and I know he can be helpful to you. Aaron is connected as much to divine wisdom, connected to source as much as I am, and hopefully as much as you will be too once you step in alignment with it. Those that are awakening right now are feeling the separation that is happening between their inner world and their outer world. And this separation is causing a disconnect. The disconnect may be happening with people around you, because what you are doing is you're stepping into a different frequency. You're disidentifying analytically. Maybe you're disidentifying with ideas, beliefs, concepts that you used to attach yourself to, identify with, and you're beginning to step into a different frequency of existence. Now, time is not linear. Quantum physics, quantum mechanics talk about this. This reality is about time in a linear way. It's an illusion. It's not real. It's a construct. It's a part of the program of this reality. I'm now going to give you another pointer. Who's seen the movie The Matrix? The movie The Matrix isn't just a movie and a story. It's a very good way of helping understand the simulation or the reality in which we are in at the moment. Do you know in the movie The Matrix, There was a real version, which was called Zion, and there was the Matrix itself. The Matrix was a copy of the real thing, which in the movie was called Zion. And this is exactly what I'm referring to. The copy. Many movies actually have a lot of truth in them. They're great pointers. They're great metaphors for what is real. It's the same thing in Star Wars, the Force. What does the Force talk about? Divine presence, the universal force of divinity. So movies often get put into the category of science fiction, and often they are there to help awaken us. Now, of course, Hollywood will tell you it's science fiction and it's make-believe, but some of us understand at an intuitive knowing level there is something more to these movies, and that's why we resonate with them so deeply. My apologies for playing with my headpiece. I'm still getting used to my feedback headpiece. I think you and I are the only ones here today, but that's okay. Because when I communicate, it's always like I'm just talking to one person anyway. That's what it feels like. When I look at what I see as a camera, I just see a person, just one person. And that's why I call it a conversation. It's not scripted. I don't script anything. I just directly hit stream. I prepare as far as having my microphone and my sound and everything and my streaming settings. That's the only thing I'm preparing ahead of time, because I don't want whoever is receiving this to have any of the technical challenges, because they're so often a part of people that share truth have a lot of interference generally from technical systems. I used to get really frustrated by this, and now I understand really why it happens, because this information, the system doesn't want out. The system doesn't want people to know the truth. The system really wants people to be asleep. And this system operated for thousands and thousands of years with the vast majority of humanity fast asleep. But as we come to the end of the cycle, the end of this reality, more and more people are awakening. Now, the more and more people that awaken, the more the system can't handle the amount of people that are awakening. And so the system begins to break it down. That is really what we're seeing. This reality is breaking down. It's glitching. And there is fear from those that keep the structure in place, because they're trying desperately to keep it from functioning. But I want to tell you a truth. You can't save this system. This system cannot be saved. It doesn't matter what side of politics that you sit on. It doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right, or you're centric, you are in the center. It doesn't really matter. The system itself cannot and will not be saved. It's kind of like, here is another movie analogy, the Titanic. It's kind of like being on the Titanic and trying to save the Titanic. The only way is to get into a lifeboat when they're available. That's the only real way of exiting, because it's an inevitable aspect in that metaphor that the Titanic goes down. Now, of course, there are people that are going to cling to that right to the very last minute. There are going to be those that go down with the Titanic. for various reasons. But nonetheless, it's going down. And this system, this reality, is inevitably going down. It can't be saved. Now, you can try to save it. You can do whatever you want to try to preserve and do all of that out of goodwill. And I don't discourage you for doing that. That is where you're at. But inevitably, the system itself is at its completion. The copy was never going to last forever. And many ancient texts have spoken about that. End of an age, end of a system, at least a time that it would go on for, but eventually it was going to have its conclusion. Now, Dolores Cannon spoke about this in her work. The book of Revelations speak about this in the prophecy that John gave on the Isle of Patmos, and many other traditions and seers and prophecies have been written about this specific time. The question for you, though, is, are you going to remain with the system? Are you going to try to save the system? Are you going to try to cling to the system? Or as you awaken, are you going to exit the system? And really, that is what is going on really now. That is the path that lays before us. Are we going to continue to identify, protect, defend the system? Or are we going to align with something greater, something vastly more real than this fake copy ever was? And really, that is what is going on right now. It's a split. Dolores Cannon called it the split. The book of Revelations. Hello, Torah. I see you there in the chat. Great that you joined us. Dolores Cannon spoke about it being a split. The only thing I would say about the wording of that, because I used to use, many of you will probably see some of my YouTube videos on this, I used to call it the new earth. I won't call it that anymore because it's not new. It's always been. It's just that humanity fell from that place. Right? I've got laggy. I got laggy with my system here. And so that's another correction that we'll do moving forward. All right, do we have anyone that has any questions? I want to at least, we're at about 23 minutes, and I think eventually my lighting I have battery lighting, so I get about 2 hours out of it before it will go, and then I'll be in the dark. So what I will do is just give you a couple of minutes or so before I close to ask questions, and I'll make sure that I've covered everything in my notes. You know, the key now is to trust the process and detach from fear-based thinking. There is nothing to fear if you are aware and awake. If you've woken up and if you are moving and aligning with the divine, you have nothing to fear. You don't need to run and escape and hide. You just need to wake up. That's all you have to do. Now, if you are hearing this and you're rejecting and perhaps disagreeing and all of that, I'm not trying to convince anybody. That's not my job. My job is simply to communicate a message to those that are ready to hear it. Those that have ears to hear will hear, and those that don't, will choose to align with their truth. And that is actually divine perfection, because love does not force, love invites. And my teachings will never create fear, only awakening, only reminding. And this information, actually, for those that align with it, already exists in your soul. My words just act as a reminder or an activator of what is already inside of you. And when you hear the words expressed, you start to remember, you start to align, you start to wake up. And that is all that is happening here. So if we don't have any questions, and it's been a very quiet chat today. The last time we did this, we had lots of communication, lots of people asking questions and saying hello and all of that. But perhaps it's the time that we're doing this. So I will leave the live stream there. If you're watching the replay and you have a question, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you next time I do one of these live streams. And hopefully I might even do one later, or certainly if not later, it will be tomorrow. See you next time.